It's very cool to be here with you guys, and I'm hugely honored and privileged to be here. I've met a few of you over the last 2 days, and I have heard of ECD. Coming into this, I was aware mildly of how big the challenges that we face in this space, but I'm hugely encouraged by the people that I've met, and I'm inspired by what you guys are doing and the fact that you are plowing your lives into this initiative and into this change, and we really do owe a lot to you. So if I could ask you guys to give yourselves a round of applause. So the topic of my chat today to close out is let the adventure begin. And for me, my adventure began a long time ago. That's, for those questioning, I'm the one on the left. That's my sister on the right. Just to make sure we all stay with Q. But this is me. I grew up on a farm in Escort, a little sort of small farm town. My dad was a farm manager, and Ian was talking how sort of worlds collide and how strange things happen. But when I grew up, one of my best friends was a guy called Toby. And Toby and I used to play, we used to go, and everything was imagination. Everything was created out of nothing. It would always be what's around the next corner, what's through the pastures. How many of you guys have been on those tubes down the rivers? Anybody here, especially if you're from Natal? And so we used to really explore. And the crazy part about the story is that Toby, I used to go hang out and sleep in his shack, and he'd come and hang out and have a sleepover in my house. And so I was really aware of how different society has made and has brought us in this context. So for me, it was a reality growing up. I only realized later how different our lives were. But for me, he was my best friend, and we used to hang out and play. But the reason I say the worlds collide is that none of you will believe it, but Toby actually works a couple of 100 meters behind us on the Spear Farm. So it's quite amazing how, and I actually visited him last year and a few times since then. So it's quite amazing how worlds do collide, and here I am talking about a story, talking about Toby as well, and he's now 200 meters away. He doesn't know. So that was me and my sister, and for me, everything was about imagination. And for us, to let the adventure begin, everything does start with imagination, number one. And everything that we do begins with imagination, whether it's a school, whether it's a business, whether it's creating new cars, creating new ways for electricity, whether it is writing a song. You've got to imagine it first. And I know we've spoken about it a huge amount. We were sitting in the tent. I actually spent 3 hours in the imagination tent. I didn't realize we were going to be doing that, so I'm glad this is on my first slide. But the second part to it is that we need the courage to then step out. And that's almost just as important, because I think I've been through work over the last 10 years, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes to me with the new best idea. How many of you have heard the new best idea? All of us? And so I get the guy who comes, he says, this is, and it's actually the worst running an app company, because everybody has got the new app. So literally every week I got a guy coming and saying, no, this is the app. When I talked to a guy at Brian, I said, this is what I do. He goes, oh, I've got the coolest app idea. You need to build this for me. So I have to try and explain to them that we don't build all apps, and anyway, it gets very complicated. But the reality is not many people have the courage to step out and actually do the things that they imagine. And that's really where we fall short. And I think the encouragement to all of us today is let's not have a time like this over the last 2 to 3 days where we've come up with amazing ideas, where we've brainstormed, where we've collaborated, but we don't step out and actually do something with these ideas that we have. And so my encouragement is to step out and do that. So as mentioned earlier, I was actually 23 in 2007, and I quit my job. And the idea that I had was a payment app which linked a credit card to your phone and allowed you to pay in store, and it basically routed through what we call an online payment gateway, and then printed a slip. If I've lost all of you guys in ECD, I do apologize. But basically, that was the idea that I had. And these days, that's actually not such an amazing thing. I mean, everyone's used either SnapScan or Zapper or Google Pay or Apple or Uber, and you linked your credit card. But just take yourself back 10 years to 2007, okay? We didn't have iPhone. We didn't have an Android. We didn't have an app store. So when I was telling people to download an app from a Mobi site and link your credit card to this thing, you can imagine it was, what on earth are you talking about? So for me, the biggest leap of faith was quitting my job. I really didn't have much money. I had about, I think, 4 or 5 months worth of rent, which I could pay, and that was it. Obviously, I didn't come from a wealthy family, so I couldn't do like some people, which goes to friends and family. my friends were poor and my family was even poorer, so I had to just hustle. And nevertheless, I walked around and I knocked on investors' doors and anyone I could find or bug to pitch this idea. And I had a business plan and a financial forecast. And a bit later on, I approached a friend of mine, a guy called Barcy, who's currently also the co-founder and CTO of Y Group. And I asked him to build some prototypes. So he was a rocket scientist from Stellenbosch, basically. And in December of 2007, I was about to, my rent was going to bounce literally the end of that month. And I was kind of going, what am I going to do? I've got to raise 2.5 million rand. I think I probably had a couple of $100 in my account. So it was really, for me, a big thing at that time. And I approached a man by the name of John Bright, and he said, I actually met his company down in Cape Town. I said, I must meet John. So I flew up to Joburg, and I pitched this idea to John. I said, John, this is the idea. It's going to change the world. Everyone's going to be paying with their phone. Believe me, they're still not paying with their phone. I can't believe it. So that's the side note. Drives me nuts. I have to carry my wallet around 10 years later. Anyway, but I pitched to John. I said, John, this is what I want to do. And John looked at me and said, cool, I'm going to back you. And it was a funny thing. He said, so, how are you doing cash flow-wise? So I said, well, I'm going to run out of rent. My rent's going to bounce now. I was going to go on Christmas holiday. So he said, okay, I'll wire 100K into your account, and we'll come back in January, and we'll sign all the agreements. And it's a side story, but I think the reality is it's so important that we have someone that believes in you and gives you that kind of that kick, that's early start and that opportunity. And I think what's really exciting about what you guys do is you giving people that early start. And how many lives are you going to change by giving opportunities to those people? And I certainly wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for John Bright and numbers of people throughout the years that have believed in me. So take the courage and take a step. As Walt Disney says, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So second point, you see I'm going on a theme here. Didn't have to use too much out-the-box thinking. So you'll need bucket loads of resilience. And again, for me, my journey after that was an interesting one. So you can imagine we've landed 2.5 million rand. I'm super excited. I'm on the plane. I tell Barcy we hire 2, 3, 4 other people that year, and we're in my flat, and we are just so pumped. We're going to change the world. So we build this app, and 8th of August 2008, so it was 08. That's like as creative as tech companies can get. We launched our app, and I made my first payment in a little cafe called Cafe Neo in Beach Road. Anyone from Cape Town? That was our store. My flat was about a K away. We'd walk to the store, and we made our first payments. And as far as we were concerned, no one in the world had made a mobile payment linked to a point of sale. So we were really chuffed. But leading up to that, we had basically all the banks saying to us, this is never going to work. You're going to steal our customers. We had all these big retailers. So another funny story was I approached Woolworths. Now, I'm this little, I look pretty young in general, but when I was 23, I think they thought I was in high school. And I approached Woolworths and I said, this is what we want to do, and we're launching this app, and I need your point of sale to integrate to us. Now, I'm properly naive thinking that these big, giant retailers are going to integrate to me, but I genuinely believed it. I thought, well, why would they not? We're going to pay with your phone, surely. And anyway, so the coolest part of the story was Woolworths said, no, it's great, but we need to do a site visit. So I said, oh, it's perfect. So the guys bring them into Mully Point, walk them up to the 4th floor past Mrs. Fairweather's apartment, into my apartment, and there's the site visit. There's Barcy, my techie, sitting there coding, and Mia, another one, and probably some of my laundry hung on. So that was the site visit. We've come a long way since then, fortunately. But resilience is something that is crucial, and a lot of people say to me, what's the one big thing that happened to you that defined Y Group? Whether it was a big idea, so the imagination piece, or whether it was the big thing that you overcame that defined what Y Group did. And obviously that was a big moment where we had to pivot the company. We failed as a business, and so failure is not a bad thing. We sharpened our focus, we refocused, we became a B2B software business that has a platform. Where's Sonia? Hey, I was loving your talk this morning. And so we pivoted and we became stronger and better. And so obviously through failure you refine, and we all know this, and you refine your products and you refine how you do things and you become better at it. But coming back to what I was saying, that people say, what is the one big thing? And I've thought about it for a while because I used to try and answer that question. And I realized that it's not about the one big thing. With both the ideas that you have, with the successes as well as with the failures, it's actually about the thousands of little things that you do every single day in my case, it's been 10 years, but obviously before that, and all the things that you learn growing up. And so instead of looking at yourself saying, what's this one thing that's just going to change my life? It's not about that. You wake up every single morning and you've got to make a decision to do something, to change, or to get through the challenge that you're facing. So with resilience, for me, it was just a continuous thing. I mean, I've got two guys sitting here, John and Nix, who are part of the team. I didn't know they were going to be here, by the way, so it's quite embarrassing me talking about my stories with them here. Double ganger. But the reality is, for us, we've had many, many, many ups and downs as Y Group. We have people leaving, we have clients that don't work out, we have apps, when you're building apps for 70 different corporates, you can imagine you are going to have things that go down, you're going to have point of sale systems. We've got 85,000 retail lanes that connect our platform today. So you can imagine something's going wrong pretty much all the time. And it's not about what's going wrong, it's about how we respond to that and how we pick ourselves up and how we grow. We've been trying to grow our business internationally for 2-3 years, and it is a schlep. It's the next kind of challenge we're building into and we're trying to get over. But the reality is I get on a plane every month for the last 12 months, and I go over because I know that if we're resilient and we keep pushing, that we will succeed and we will get things done. And so I think for me, it's the encouragement to you is to pick yourself up no matter how many times you've gone down. Just keep doing it, and I promise you things will come out and the fruit will be born. Okay, so just on to a little bit of tech, because I can't stand here and just talk about the fluffy stuff. So we live in a world of opportunity, so my encouragement to you is to really leverage it. And I love this. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. But to reach 50 million people, the landline phone took 75 years. The radio took 38 years. Oh, by the way, I really dig this phone. I also want one. It would have been awkward if I had won a phone. I had to stand up and then get back down and then come back up again. So radio took 38 years. The television took 13 years. Facebook took 3.5 years to reach 50 million people. And wait for it. Angry Birds. How many of you guys have used Angry Birds? Don't lie. Okay. I honestly have never used Angry Birds, but when I saw this, I'm like, I have to just get that app. I mean, that is amazing. 35 days to get to 50 million people. This is the world that we live in. And what I want to share with you coming out of this world, so as I said earlier, we build software as a service and platform as a service. And the reality is the world is completely different. No longer can you say, well, I can't get to scale because my idea can't do this or whatever it might be. Or I don't have 50 developers that can build a payment gateway. Or I don't have 50 developers that understand how hosting works. So I just want to give you an example of the things that you can do. If you have one developer, okay, and I can't even code, so therefore you get a mate, generally speaking. So if you get one developer, that developer can build an application. He can integrate into a thing called an API. So basically, everyone always says to me, what's an API? So for the non-techies in a room, an API is one computer or one system talking to another system. So if a credit card gateway has an API, you can talk through that API to process cards. Okay. So one developer can sit down and they can integrate into an API in Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud, and this app that they build can scale to millions of users to that type of scale without them having to understand how to host and manage hosting and put servers down and build scale and build floats. Because you often hear things, it couldn't handle the load, right? That's what we used to hear. Nowadays, you shouldn't hear that because if you built it in the cloud, it can just scale out as much as you want. So that's the power of one API. That guy doesn't have to know or have 100 developers or thousands of developers to build a hosting network. He can just integrate into Amazon. If that same developer then says, okay, but I now want to bill someone for a service. Right? I want to charge them. Well, he integrates into Stripe or Adyen or WorldPay, also via an API, and he can process 1 billion Visa and MasterCards around the world, and he can pull money straight out of your account, and he can start generating revenue for whatever business or product or idea that he has. But now let's say that business wants to build analytics into his software. He can integrate into an analytics platform, which can determine what his customers are doing and how they act and what's the propensity for them to be able to do something or say something or buy something. And again, he doesn't have to have 100 developers that build analytics engines. He can just integrate into a SaaS platform and boom. And then when he wants to launch his app, he just puts his app onto the Apple iStore and onto the Android Play Store, and he pays Facebook some ads, and he pays Google AdWords, and he gets a whole bunch of downloads, and he didn't have to know anything about marketing, right? So there, in a simple analogy, is how one developer can build an application and touch things that thousands of developers have built, and yet he's got that power sitting on a computer at home with a Wi-Fi connection. Yes, he does need Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's the opportunity that we live in, and I think for all of us, we really need to embrace that and say, what are we doing to make an impact in this world with this much opportunity? Be passionate and pursue the remarkable. Now, don't laugh, because these are our two core things that we talk about as our business. And really, there's actually 3 P's. Sonia likes alliteration, so we like it too. So the one is sustainable profit. We believe that for us, we need to be sustainable. We need to be generating revenue to continue what we do as a business. The second one, and probably my most important, is passionate people. We have to have people around us that love what they do, that are inspired and motivated. And the third one is pursuing remarkable products. So enriching people's lives with the products that we build. But the reason I put this up here is we went through a period of our time at Y Group where, probably 2-3 years ago, where I think we were hitting probably our biggest slump. We were just trying to survive. You know, all of us have gotten to that mode where we just get into survival mode. And we were building solutions, and we were just trying to keep clients happy, and we were servicing, and things were going wrong. And we just couldn't get to that thing where everyone was passionate and inspired and motivated. And it really took a lot of energy for us to step back and go, actually, you know what, we're just settling at this stage in our lives. And for us, we then launched this thing called Pursue the Remarkable in our organization. And it really changed a lot of how we saw things. Because instead of just settling for what we were building, we actually made a conscious decision saying, no, we're not going to build it unless we really think it's remarkable. And it reminds me of a story. So a mate of mine, he's called Ryan. He's a big guy. And he went to a birthday party. He moved over to the States, and he went to this Mexican birthday party. And they had a thing called a piñata. Who knows what a piñata is? Anybody? Okay, good. So it's a paper mache donkey with sweets in it. And basically the idea is they have to hit this donkey. And as the sweets come out, the kids catch the sweets. And whatever they get, they can keep. So Ryan's in his element. Like I say, he loves his chocolates and his sweets. And he has a cake in one hand, and he's stuffing his face. And he has some juice in the other hand. And he's like, this is a great party. They got good chow. And he's standing there. And the guy starts the piñata thing. So he starts smacking this piñata. Bang, hits it once, nothing happens. Bah, hits it twice, nothing happens. And the third time he winds it. And then instead of breaking up slowly, the entire piñata flies out of the tree. And Ryan, in that split second, just goes poof, poof. And he lets go, and he bear hugs this piñata. And obviously the father, everyone's like, no, it's unfair, it's unfair. And the father says, what you catch, you can keep. But the moral of the story is that if Ryan didn't let go of his cake and his juice, he wouldn't have caught on to the remarkable. And but I think it's so true in life, as funny as that story is. I think for all of us, there's so many times where we hold on to good, but we actually need to get rid of that to grab onto something that's really great and something that really inspires us and something that really motivates us. And it's a conscious choice. It's very easy to get rid of something bad. Well, it's easier. Some people don't even get rid of what's bad. But sometimes you're sitting in a mediocre, good job, paying you, doing what you need to do, or you're like, oh, I'm making a big enough impact in my little world over here, so it's fine. But the reality is, if you really want to make an impact in this world, if you really want to scale things, then you have to actually let go of good and really drive after amazing and remarkable solutions. And it also talks to focus. You know, people often say, don't do too many things. At Y Group, we also got to a stage where we were trying to do too many things, and we have to keep focusing our teams and our people and our products to say, what can we be best in the world at? And those are the things that are going to make a difference. So Steve Jobs says, the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And then lastly, the world needs leaders. And this is something I'm hugely passionate about. Leadership is the one thing that I think we can never invest enough in. And back in the day when I used to, talk to people, my one main thing there was just people. And I used to say to people, Jim Collins, get the right people onto the bus. And when you have the right people, everything takes care of itself. And I used to kind of say that over and over and over again. And I really do believe that people are essential in an organization. But what I missed was you can have the best people in the world, and if you're a junk leader, you get zero. Those people just crumble or leave or fall apart or are not activated or are not passionate. And so leadership is crucial. And there's one other major part about leadership that for me we all miss. Because then I started making leadership about me. How good a leader am I? What can I do? How can I lead people? But the reality is the greatest type of leadership is raising other leaders and making other leaders grow and become everything they can become. And I think if you're sitting here saying, well, how can I be this leader and how can I become glorified or great or whatever it is, I think you're missing the point. And the reality is, if you're a leader and you just want followers, you're probably going to grow a business to 10 or 20 people and you're going to impact very few people. If you're a leader and you raise leaders, who raise leaders, who raise leaders, who raise leaders, there's no stopping. Because it stops bottlenecking at you. I remember when we were 30 people, every decision in the company used to come to me. And it's a complete bottleneck. And it also assumes that I know the best, which is also rubbish. So for me, the minute the business started getting a life of its own, and we have sector heads, and we have people that can make their own decisions, and they grow, and they go to other leaders in the business, and they go to this person because he's the best at that, and they go to this person because he's the best at people. And I remember the first time I learned this was I'm a terrible manager. I just don't have the patience to sit with people and go through KPIs. And I realized I got someone else in the organization who was just this unbelievable manager. And she just loved nurturing people and sitting with people and spending the time with people. And it just exhausted me. But it just shows how if you raise leaders around you and if you're focusing on other people and growing them, how much more you can achieve than if you just do it in yourself. And my last story that I want to share is of a Nigerian pastor. And this guy had the vision to start a church in Nigeria, and his vision was, I'm going to get the most amazing people. They're going to be influencers. They're going to be millionaires. The money's going to come in. I'm going to make such a big impact in Nigeria. And he did all this marketing, and he's obviously well-spoken gentleman, and he got all this marketing, and he launched this church, and on day one, there were like 20 people, and they were all needy and poor. And he thought, this is not what I signed up for. And the next week he came back and he thought, no, but next week, Lord, I'm going to get all these people. And so this went on for a year. And by the end of it, he still had needy, poor people. Everyone had a problem, and everyone came to him with this problem and that problem. And he said, we're the guys that are coming that are the world changers with money that can make a difference. And after a year, it eventually dawned on him. And what dawned on him was that he actually has millionaires. He just doesn't know it yet. And so what I want to leave with you guys today is, how many of you guys are sitting with millionaires, whether it's in your schools, in your classes, in your family, in your friends, and your colleagues, but you haven't brought it out in them? And what is your leadership doing to raise these leaders and to raise other people up to become the best that they can do? And as Nelson Mandela says, it's the difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the lives that we lead. And for me, I really get, if I can say, juiced up about seeing people come alive. And that's why I think that passionate people thing resonates so nicely for me, because when I see people come alive in what they do, that is leaving a proper legacy. And everything else can come, the great products and the money and all the rest of it. But I think if we're not getting the essence of making a difference in people's lives and bringing them out to be everything they can be, I really think we're selling ourselves short. So in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. So thank you very much for having me, and I wish you all the best on your journey.
I'm searching for the spirit of the great heart.